Hello and welcome everyone, it's Capcan. We're looking at the discipline tree, discipline talent tree in Dragonflight, discipline priest talent tree in Dragonflight. Yeah, that's the correct way to say it. We've already saw shadow priest tree and basic general trees, priest trees, which are pretty cool, and I hope the discipline is gonna be very cool. That's this pack where you can give so much choices, you can give so much variety to the stuff that's gonna be picked up, and I hope it's gonna be here. So first talent is Atonement, Power Word, Shield, Shadow Mend, Flash Heal, Renew, and Power Word Radiance. Apply Atonement to your target for 15 seconds. Your spell damage heals all targets affected by Atonement for 50% of the damage done. So that's the main discipline feature stuff that the class plays out of. You're dealing damage, you're healing all the people that you've shielded or healed for the past time. And to my knowledge, if I'm not again yet mistaken, which I may be, Flash Heal and Renew wasn't the case for the Atonement previously. Maybe I'm wrong, but if I recall correctly, Atonement was applied to targets that you were mostly shielding. Which means that if that's the change here, and we really have, because we didn't had Flash Heal at all, or maybe, man, I've not played Disc in BFA, and they probably, yeah, I need to check the things that they've given us in the Shadowlands first, and then say some stuff about changes in these talent trees. But still, very big variety of skills with which you can apply Atonement to your allies, which is cool, and all that stuff. But that's just basic stuff that that is core to discipline, and therefore it's of course first talent that you can skip. Power Word Radiance. A burst of light heals the target and 4 injured allies within 30 yards and applies Atonement for 60% of its normal duration. Okay, so that's AoE cooldown, which will grant everybody Atonement. It will heal everybody. It's pretty cool. 20 seconds recharge, 2 seconds cast, 6.5 base mana cost. Probably is quite a lot, but still very good cooldown when you need to apply on everybody. Pain Suppression reduces all damage taken by a friendly target by 40% for 8 seconds, castable while stunned. That is cool. Don't know if that's, I'm not really playing Disc too much. I don't really know if that's the base stuff. Probably it is, because it's this early in the tree itself, but it is very, very good skill to have. 40% damage reduce is crucial. Shadow Word Pain and Purge the Wicked have a chance to empower your next penance with Shadow, increasing its effectiveness by 30%. Okay. Procs approximately 1 proc per minute. Light's Promise. Power Word Radiance gains an additional charge. So it has 2 charges, 20 seconds recharge. You don't really need to cast it twice in a short sequence, because it will apply Atonement anyway for 60% of its base duration, and base duration is 15 seconds, which means that here is gonna be like 7 and so 8 from 8 to 9 seconds of Atonement. You probably don't need so much extra AoE healing in short periods of time, but maybe if everything is quite situational anyway, which means that, yeah, you can make yourself more of a, or if that's for the raid purposes, and you've used your radiance for one part of the raid, for second part of the raid, and then you're going to heal to DPS the target and heal everyone. That's quite cool. For the M+, that's, I guess, a little bit less of a thing, but still maybe quite handful as well. So, reduces the cooldown of Power Word Radiance by 5 seconds, so more incentive on more frequent Power Word Radiances, or Power Word Radiance applies Atonement at an additional 15% of its normal duration. Second part of the talent is more mana friendly, but there are probably some situations when you want to use one, some situations where you want to use two. Shield Discipline. When your Power Word shield is completely absorbed, you restore 0.5 seconds of your maximum mana. And how much does it cost? That's the question here. Power Word Shield, 3.1% base mana, and here we have 0.5. So a little bit of a mana restoration. Pretty interesting, okay. Power Word Solace, 15 seconds cooldown, instant strikes an enemy with heavenly power, dealing spell damage, whole even damage, and restoring 1% of your maximum mana, and that's once every 15 seconds. Of course, in mana terms, that's probably a little bit worse. Not even probably. But in terms of additional instant damage that you can apply, which means free healing and even healing that restores your mana, it's pretty cool. Again, some ways to change your rotation with some not so long cooldown instant abilities in, pretty cool as well. Okay, let's take some talents here and here. I need to go more. Alright, let's not use them, let's just read them. Purge the Wicked. Cleanses the target with fire, causing 22% of spell power radiant damage and an additional 124 of spell power radiant damage over 20 seconds. Spreads to a nearby enemy when you cast Penance on the target. And there is, I see already, there is a talent. Purge the Wicked deals 5% additional damage and spreads to one additional target when casting Penance. And Penance is one of the signature, yes, it's this ability. It was one of the signature discipline abilities, which means that you have pretty interesting ways to deal additional AoE damage, or more of a cleave damage, but 3 targets is... yeah, it's pretty cool. It spreads, it's the initial damage is not so big. Instant, it costs mana. It's instant again. So yeah, pretty cool way to boost up your DPS, especially for small groups of enemy. Contrition. When you heal the Penance with Penance, everyone with your Atonement is healed for 14.4 of spell damage, and I guess you can boost it up to... It doesn't do anything. So second part, maybe it's a little bit broken here. Maybe 14% is the final result. So 7 and 7%, maybe it's 14 and 14%. Everyone with your Atonement is healed for 14% of your spell power. That's again probably more of a raid stuff. Raid potentially healing output, and just AoE healing, which is cool in M+ as well. Yeah, so that's just an additional AoE splash healing that you will get, and especially when you heal with Penance, which means when you use it against not against an enemy. So when you're healing one target that is low enough and you have to heal it, instead of just DPSing with your Penance some other target, enemy target, you're healing this guy, and you're additionally healing your guys with Atonements. But that's a little bit of it doesn't really work with Purge the Wicked, because with Purge the Wicked you want to, so that's like partially a counter talent, because if you're taking Purge the Wicked, then you want to penance the enemy target, which means that contrition wouldn't be doing anything. Yeah, so that's probably one or another most of the times. And borrowed time. Casting Power Word Shield increases your haste by 4% for 4 seconds, and it's not 8% for 4 seconds, and it's not stacks. It doesn't stack, which is again pretty cool, interesting stuff. Now for the center part of the tree. So that was mostly AoE healing and spreading of AoE additional AoE damage. Now this part of it, pain suppression, pain transformation. Oh shit. I can't now see both of them. Okay, pain transformation. Pain suppression also heals your target for 12% of their maximum health and applies atonement. So pain suppression becomes way more of a panic button to instantly pump up the healing on the target if you don't really have time to give them shield and then do something, or you just want to use that once on them and then swap onto the other targets, swap to dealing damage, and you're sure that with the atonement on him you will heal him up pretty fast. So it saves you some seconds in your rotation. Okay, that's pain transformation and protect of the frail. Power Word Shield reduces the cooldown of pain suppression by 3 seconds, and that's if you want to use pain suppressions way more often. So every Power Word Shield reduces the cooldown. That's gonna be pretty massive, but 3 minutes cooldown is quite a lot. Which means that you'll probably have a pretty good increase of uptime of your pain suppression if the damage spikes are more often and you need it every single pack instead of every 2 packs in Mythic or something like that. If a boss has windows of damage that are more often than every 3 minutes, then you're probably wanted to. So yeah, these both do completely different stuff, and they're both pretty useful. Power Word Barrier. Summons a Holy Barrier to protect all allies at the target location for 10 seconds, reducing all damage taken by 25% and preventing damage from delaying spell casting. So that's just AoE damage reducing for 10 seconds. Of course, that's in one area, which means that if there are some AoE splashes that going around and people need to dodge it, it wouldn't be 100% efficient on the whole group, but it's very, very cool, very strong cooldown with 3 minutes cooldown, 4% of base mana cost. Yeah, that's of course pretty good talent. And here Rapture, 3.1 base mana cost, instant, 1.5 minutes cooldown. Immediately Power Word Shield your target, and for the next 8 seconds Power Word Shield has no cooldown and absorbs an additional 30%. Wait a second. Okay, let's look for Power Word Shield. So shields an ally has 7.5 seconds cooldown, and this one means that if your Power Word Shield is on cooldown already, then you want to use this ability. It will probably get off its cooldown, and then you can shield everyone non-stop for next 8 seconds. If you need to get atonement on many targets fast, and probably if you just need more shields, if you need additional some kind of a panic button for your group, that's pretty cool stuff. And Spirit Shell, 2% base mana, instant, 1.5 minute cooldown. So these both cooldowns are equal in their cooldowns. For 10 seconds, Penance, Power Word Radiance, and Atonement create absorb shields for 80% of their value instead of healing. Oh, so that's probably more. Oh, interesting. Does that Does that impacted by? Is that impacted by healing reducing abilities or not? But that's probably the thing. If you need to give your tank or your damage dealer, no, that doesn't really matter. If you want to give them more HP. If you want to give them more maximum health and you know that they're gonna be struck by something very, very powerful in short term, then you want this talent. It's interesting choice again. Probably Rapture is gonna be a little bit more of a not more of a useful, but more universally useful stuff. But spiritual again has its situations where it can be very good, very powerful. Okay, let's take some of them. So contrition we've already saw. Now exaltation increases the duration of rapture and spirit shell by 3 seconds. Oh, so you can buff the one of these cooldowns a little bit more. You have 8 seconds on Rapture and 10 seconds on Spirit Shell. You will have 11 and 13 seconds instead. Improved Shadow Word Pain. It's probably from more of a this talent part talent, but still we're gonna look at it. Increases the damage of Shadow Word Pain and Purge the Wicked by 8%. And Purge the Wicked again is this one, which means more of a cleave ability. Penance fires one additional bolt of holy light over its duration. Just an increase for your penance, which is pretty cool. Even though if you're taking this part of the tree and you're going into Purge the Wicked, you want to penance your enemies, you don't really have your access to the contrition probably, but you still want castigation because you're using penance a lot. But still, again, you will use penance either way, so you don't really need an additional bolt of holy light if you're going with Purge the Wicked. But still you can get this talent, which increases the damage by Purge the Wicked, and then get castigation, dodging the contrition. Okay, so right part of the tree. So this one was already, we've already discussed it. Here we have more of a just cooldowns and increases of so more of a panic buttons part of the tree and buffing those panic buttons. And here is probably our damage part, our shadow type part of the tree. So dark indulgence, power of the dark side increases the effectiveness of penance by an additional 20%. Power of the dark side. Maybe that's some of the passives. Power of the dark side. Nope. Shit. I'm sorry, I don't really know what the power of the dark side is. And we haven't really... Oh, that's the power. Oh, I get it. Shadow Word Pain and Purge the Wicked have a chance to empower your next penance with Shadow, increasing its effectiveness by 30%, and there it goes with an additional 20%. So penance becomes your hard-hitting, very hard-hitting talent, skill. Schism attacks the enemy's soul with a surge of shadow energy, dealing 150% of spell power shadow damage and increasing your spell damage to the target by 25% for 9 seconds, 1.5 seconds cast, 24 seconds cooldown. Schism we already have currently in our rotation, or we have it as a talent. Yeah, probably we have it as a talent more. Painful punishment. Each penance bolt extends the duration of Shadow Word Pain and Purge the Wicked on enemies hit by 0.7%. Each penance bolt. So with one additional penance bolt, it's gonna be even more useful. It's probably very cool on bosses because you have additional seconds of uptime of your dots. You don't need to refresh them as much, and all that stuff. Yeah, maybe for AoE, it's a less of a thing. Still pretty cool. Now, Malicious Scission increases the duration of Schism by 3 seconds. That's more of a single target increase as well, because Schism is the thing that you're gonna cast on the boss. You will have increased damage on that boss, and plus 3 seconds of uptime for such a cooldown is very good. It will increase your healing, it will increase your damage output, and it doesn't really do much in AoE situations. Shadow Covenant. Instant 30 seconds cooldown. Make a shadowy pact, healing the target and 4 other injured allies within 30 yards for 165 spell power. For 7 seconds, your shadow spells deal 25% increased damage and healing. Shadow Mend has no cooldown, and Halo and Divine Star are converted to shadow spells. So you're just becoming full shadow. You're getting additional AoE heal cooldown, which is neat, and you have additional increased damage and healing from your shadow spells, and Shadow Mend doesn't have cooldown. By the way, how much is a cooldown on Shadow Mend? It's not in the base tree, so there it is. Yeah, 15-second cooldown. Oh shit. That's interesting. Okay. Now, improved Shadow Word Pain we've already saw. Choose one. Embrace Shadow. Shadow Covenant lasts an additional 4 seconds. So from the 7 seconds, man, 4 seconds for 4 additional seconds for an ability with 7 seconds duration is pretty good. And it only has 30 seconds cooldown, but it costs 4% of mana, so it's not a free ability. And the second talent is Twilight Corruption. While Shadow Covenant is active, Penance becomes Dark Reprimand. While Shadow Covenant is active, Penance becomes Dark Reprimand, causing 40% of spell power multiplied by 3 shadow damage over 2 seconds, castable while moving. So you just during your Shadow Covenant, you're changing your penance into a completely new skill, which is interesting. And it over 2 seconds probably it can just damage enemies. It cannot heal. Interesting. We need to see it how does it looks in the game. Atonement heals for 20% more when activated by Mind Blast. Oh, so your Mind Blast just heal your targets more than your regular damage. Okay. Train of Thought. Let's go with more of a holy part of the tree. Probably we have how much talents? 9 talents left. Okay. Flesh Heal, Renew, and Shadow Mend reduce the cooldown of Power Word Shield by 1 second, which means more uptime on shields. Smite reduces the cooldown of Penance by 0.5 seconds. That depends on how much smites you can weave into your rotation. And how much do you need reducing of cooldown of your Power Word Shield. But still interesting stuff. Make amends. When your penance deals damage, the duration of atonement on yourself is increased by 1 second. And when your penance heals, the duration of atonement on your target is increased by 1 second. So you need to apply atonements lesser, you have more uptime, you'll probably rarely... Do you need the penance, do you need the atonement on yourself that much? Probably don't, but still, but when you heal your target with penance, that means that it will just... Yeah, that's more of a talent where you need to play the spec itself. You need to have experience on that spec, so you will feel the change, and you need to play the change itself inside the game in order to really appreciate it or not appreciate it, which means that I will probably not really comment on it. It looks interesting. I don't really know how it will change the situation. Okay, Divine Aegis. Critical heals create a protective shield on the target, absorbing 15% of the amount healed. Lasts 15 seconds, which means it will go up to 30%. Nope. 15, 15, 15. 15. So again, another talent which doesn't increase with second rank, which means it's just a little bit bugged here on the calculator. It will probably go to the 30% amount of healed. Critical strikes, critical heals with Power Word Shield absorb 15% additional damage. So that's if you want to go in critical strikes and to buff up that stat, you will probably take this part. Choose one. Indemnity. Atonements granted by Power Word Shield last an additional 3 seconds. Oh, so your atonements from Power Word Shield are more of a atonements than the other ones. And Aegis of Wrath. Power Word Shield absorbs 30% additional damage, but the absorb amount decays by 3% every 1 second. This thing is very interesting because it's just more damage shielded, and it's more... therefore, it's more mana efficient to have this talent. Maybe instead of atonements increased, but still depends on your rotation, depends on how much you will use your Power Word Shield. You can probably justify taking both of these talents in some situations. Let's go with this. So, Light's Wrath. Invoke the Light's Wrath, dealing 175% of spell power radiant damage to the target, increasing by 10% per ally affected by your atonement. Oh man, so if you're using your Power Word Radiance and you have another stack of your Power Word Radiance and you're, like, for example, you're in the raid, you're casting one AoE heal and spreading atonement, casting second one, spreading atonement, and then you can heal everybody for a pretty good amount again and damage a little bit your boss with Light's Wrath, which is pretty cool. With potential of you spreading so much your atonement on allies and on big amount of allies, it means that this talent can be ramped up pretty hard, and radiant damage to the target increased. So yeah, it both increases the damage and it increases your healing through the damage dealt. Which means if that's 10 targets, for example, it's gonna be not 175%, it's gonna be 350% of your spell power. Radiant damage to the target. 1.5 minute cooldown though, and 2.5 seconds cast. Yeah, that's more of a critical heal, additional critical heal from the single target if you need it. And even if you don't have second stack of your Power Word Radiance, you still can use it, especially if you're like in Mythic Plus. You use your Radiance, you hit enemy with Light's Wrath, and your allies healed for good amounts twice. Now everybody's way healthier and everyone has fun. Your damage is increased by up to 6%, diminishing for each ally affected by your atonement. Diminishing for each ally affected by your atonement. So if you don't really have any atonements, your damage is increased by 6%. If you have atonements on your allies, it means that you wouldn't have your additional damage, which means that you don't really want to spread your atonements. 12% increased damage. I don't know, maybe it's for some kind of... maybe, if you want to heal only one target, this talent will do pretty good stuff. Again, it doesn't say how much it diminishes for each ally affected by your atonement. If it's 1% per target, then that's quite questionable, but still you can heal more your one target with like 20 to 12% more. No, not 12, yeah, 12% more heals from the damage that you've dealt that was increased. Interesting. I don't really know, with my knowledge, I don't really know if that's good or not. Again, more of a hard on your base perception, I guess, talent. for the people who don't really play the spec, the class. And lenience. Atonement reduces damage taken by 3%. That's quite huge. That's just pretty good stuff. It's free, and damage reduces are always cool, because even if you don't, even if that target wouldn't be healed by you, they will receive less damage. They can self-heal. So that's like, just reducing damage overall on the targets, on the allied targets, is very cool. And with how good you can, with how easy you can spread your atonements around your group, it's just a very good talent. Evangelism extends the duration of all your active atonements by 6 seconds. If I'm not mistaken, we have something similar to that right now. That's more of a, I guess, probably that's more of a raid stuff, because you will, if you have troublesome situation, you can spread your atonements, then you can get them back up with this talent. So that's for more targets probably. Now, Resplendent Light. Light's Wrath deals an additional 2% damage per ally affected by your atonement. Again, you need numbers in order to know how good is this. But if this gives 10% and here we can have additional 4%, that's pretty cool as well, and you can deal more single target damage. The Wrath Unleashed reduces the cast time of Light's Wrath by 1 second, so instead of 2.5 it's going to be 1.5, and increases its critical strike chance by 15%. Again, more incentive on critical strikes, like we saw in the Shadow Priest trees. There was a bunch of critical strike talents. Smite deals 40% additional damage for 15 seconds after casting Light's Wrath, which means that you have more single target damage after the Light's Wrath is casted. So that's if you want to deal more damage, if you want to spread more heals through the atonement. Okay, now Stolen Psych. Atonement heals for 20% more when activated by Mind Blast. We saw it already. We're gonna take all our points from here. Balance in all things. Your damage in shadow spells increase the damage of your next holy spell cast within 6 seconds by 15%. So only one talent point. Your damage in holy spells increase the damage of your next shadow spell cast within 6 seconds by 15%. Which means that you want to swap between them, and you will probably... You probably will be swapping between them and casting shadow spells, casting holy spells, one by another. Don't really know how it will change the rotation. So will you be required to use one's holy, one shadow, one holy, one shadow? Or if it's not gonna be the case, that's more of a hard question, but still pretty good talent, more damage for you wisely playing your class. It's more just straight up more damage. Harsh Discipline. When Atonement has healed a total of 200 times, your next penance is free and fires 3 additional bolts. And the second rank is has healed a total of 100 times. Wow. Interesting. So that's you can add yourself some procs. Again, you need to test this out in real situations of how often this talent will proc and how much usefulness it will give you. But it looks like a very cool idea, at least for me. Your penance bolts increase the damage of your next smite by 8%, or the absorb of your next power word shield by 3%, stacks up to 7 times. So every penance bolt, the penance has... How much bolts does it have? Into a volley of holy light at the target, causing whole damage to an enemy. Oh man, it doesn't say it here. Okay, so again, if you've invested in the penance itself, it means that with extra bolts and with this talent that gives your free penance extra bolts, this talent will increase either your damage or your shielding power. Pretty interesting as well. Mindbender. Summons a Mindbender to attack the target for 12 seconds. Generates 0.5 mana each time the Mindbender attacks. 1 minute cooldown. Your Smite, Mind Blast, and Penance casts reduce the cooldown of Shadow Fiend by 3 seconds or Mindbender by 1 second. Okay, so you have more uptime of the Mindbender or Shadow Fiend. Expiation. Okay, increases the damage of Mind Blast and Shadow Word Death by 10%. Mind Blast and Shadow Word Death consume 3 seconds of Shadow Word Pain or Purge the Wicked, instantly dealing that damage. More burst for you, more damage for you, which means more heals for you, but instead of more, like, you can go for straight up heals, or you can go for healing through damage. Which one will be more effective, we'll see. And I want to check this thing out as well. Shadow Flame Prism. Mind Blast and Shadow Word Death cause your Shadow Fiend or Mindbender to teleport behind the target, slashing up to 5 nearby enemies. Each time a rift is triggered, the duration of Shadow Fiend or Mindbender is increased by 1 second. So, this talent, we have it already in Shadow Priest 3 as well. It gives you more AoE damage. It definitely increases your usefulness in M+. It probably wouldn't be that hot of a talent in raids or PvP, at least arenas. Yeah, and it's pretty interesting how it will how it will impact your heals, how it will impact your rotation, how it will impact your feeling of the discipline tree. It has definitely a good amount of choices. It has definitely pretty interesting talents, interesting skills that you can use. It has AoE damage, it has AoE heals. Yeah, very interesting stuff. I hope that they will keep changing. I don't really know if they changed the discipline tree as well in the recent changes of the priest trees, but yeah, people were calling all these changes good. Now that I see the trees by myself, it's very reassuring. You definitely see that it's gonna be probably interesting to play. It's gonna be interesting to swap around between different styles. But it's gonna be interesting experimenting with how the things are, which one is better for you, for how you play your class and all that stuff. So thanks for watching. I hope you will join me later. Subscribe for my channel and have a good day.